Welcome to Podcapers, the official podcast of a place to hang your cape. And this week, Spider-Ham does whatever a spider does. Spins a web, that's the gig. Kinda weird cause he's a pig. Look out, here comes the Spider-Ham. We're taking a dive into the Spider-Verse! Cue the music! Hello there, capers, and as I said, welcome to Podcapers, the official podcast of a place to hang your cape. My name's Scott James Merridew, and this is the show where I talk about various geek and nerd-related topics, and are joined each week by a very special different guest. My guest today works for a place to hang your cape. She's a writer/editor. Give it up, capers, for Jillian Diblasio.
Hey!
Diblasio.
Yes.
I thought I said Dilazio or something there. No, I got it right, damn it! How are you, Jillian?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing very well, and I'll tell you why I'm doing very well, because for some reason, despite the 2018 turned out to be kinda shit for everyone, they've only gone and given us a bunch of great movies to cap off the year.
I know, it's so surprising.
It's a surprising and a little infuriating, like, where was this the rest of the year?
Exactly.
I mean, God. Like, it's especially weird considering that we're talking about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and this is a Spider-Man related film from Sony.
I know, I was like, where was Sony Animation last year? Giving us shit like the freaking Emoji Movie.
Oh my god, yeah, that's another thing, because, like, Sony have not given us a good Spider-Man movie in over 10 years.
Yeah, exactly.
2004, I think, that was when Spider-Man 2 came out. That was the last good one. And since then, we've got nothing but shit, including Venom.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, we get Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And it's not just good, it's fucking phenomenal!
I know, it was like one of the best movies I've seen this year.
What? Am I in Bizarro world all of a sudden? Where Sony is suddenly good? Where DC can make good films as well? Where Transformers is good? Am I taking crazy pills here?
I know, right? It's like, if you would have asked me where was 2018 gonna end, I wouldn't have expected this. And yet the sad thing is like I expected the new Harry Potter film to be good, and then like that was shit, and everything else that I thought was gonna suck is like brilliant.
We're in topsy-turvy land.
Yeah, exactly.
Up is down, left is right, blue is yellow, and green is a mathematician suffering from severe alcoholism. What is happening? Oh, God. And as you say, yeah, especially considering Sony Animation, the Emoji Movie, the genital wart upon the face of poor films, it's just, and I mean, we could go on and on and on about how good the movie is. So, before we go into all of that, we need to talk about you, Jillian. Who are you? What do you do? What is your reason for being? Where's your place in the universe? What do you do for a place to hang your cape?
So I am a senior writer for A Place to Hang Your Cape, and I've also been recently doing some junior editing work. So if you're reading the website and you see mistakes, it was probably me that edited it. So there you go.
J'accuse! I'm sure your work is exemplary. It's absolutely fine. Do you enjoy working for A Place to Hang Your Cape? Is it as much fun as you thought it would be?
Yeah, it's great. I love writing. I've always had an interest in writing things since high school, so it's really fun.
Good one. I'm glad you're having fun, which is exactly the same experience I had when watching this movie. I think we mentioned that it was good, did we not?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. You know, it was all right, you know.
It was more than alright, because, I mean, to be honest, I had exactly zero expectations going to this movie. A, because it's a Sony movie. B, because, like, the last movies that I saw were, like, the Emoji Movie and Peter Rabbit. Fuck that movie! Fuck it! Getting ahead of myself. And also, just because, I mean, I saw a preview clip like at the end of Venom, and I talked about it in the Venom review we did with Mark Russell, and they just showed a clip at the end of the credits from the movie. It's a scene where Peter meets Miles meets alternate universe Peter Parker for the first time, and they have the little sort of escapade through the streets of New York in the snow in the nighttime with the webs and stuff. And I'll be honest, it really didn't impress me because something about the animation was really janky. It felt like there was lots of frames missing from the animation. It's like there's a recent animation out called The Dragon Prince. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I've seen that, and I know exactly what you're talking about. For the Dragon Prince, it definitely annoys me like so much, but this one, for some reason, the animation style actually didn't bother me. I mean, for me, I was kind of going into this movie scared because I loved the trailer. The trailer looked awesome, but at the same time, I was like, well, it's Sony, so is it really going to be that good?
But here's the thing, though. Somehow, between me watching that clip and me going to see in the cinema, the animation became flawless. Was flawless as animation can be. Because it didn't, when I was watching it in the cinema, as opposed to just the clip, it didn't look janky at all. It didn't look like they'd cut out several frames of animation. It felt smooth and flowing when it needed to be, but with a suitable rhythm and pace and just everything about the animation on a technical, fundamental, foundational level was fine. And then there's the animation style itself.
Yeah, the art style, I think, really, really helps this movie. Like, I mean, it's gorgeous to look at, and it's unique, and it's just, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's everything. All the colours, all the styles, all the line work pops out of the screen. The characters will go to the screen, but nothing gets, like, lost. It's not oversaturated. It's not so many things going around. You have no time to look at anything. And which just because there's a lot of things in the background that are really interesting to watch. Little subtle things, little in-jokes. Like there's scenes where all the spider people pop up in Times Square, and they have so much fun with it because there's so many advertisements for things like that, like alternate universe things. Like there's a Clone High poster, but it's not Clone High. There's like I think it's called. There's a Shaun of the Dead poster, but it's different. Yeah. There's like a Seth Rogen horse movie. I don't know, but it's they call it like instead of Coca-Cola, it's Soda Cola.
Yeah.
This is, you know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of like Aardman animation because they always have lots of funny in-jokes in the background and all like Wallace and Gromit and Flushed Away and all those sorts of things. And it reminded me of that, and it's exactly my kind of humour. It's like, oh, it's so cool. And it further shows that it's an alternate dimension. And this is the thing, you see. I think them setting this in the Spider-Verse, showing that this is not Peter Parker, this is not Spider-Man, this is a version of Spider-Man, a version of Peter Parker, maybe it's not even Peter Parker, was the goddamn perfect choice.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the story was absolutely great. I mean, there was honestly points where I had no idea where they were going with it, and that's always a good thing for me.
Because they can do no wrong. They can show any version of these characters, and it's just like, well, it's okay because it's another dimension. And it's the creative freedom it must have given Lord and Miller. And this is a Lord and Miller thing. I think that's part of the reason why it's good, because anything those guys touch turns to gold unless it's something to do with Han Solo.
Yeah.
Oh, God. And it's so good. And so we could gush, or we could just actually talk about what happens in the fucking movie. And so we start with basically a lovely intro to Spider-Man. This universe is Spider-Man, voiced by Chris Pine, who I didn't realise was in the movie when I first went to see it, because, I don't look up these movies before I go and see them. And I found like, wow, he sounds like a really natural... Is that Jake Johnson? No, it doesn't sound quite like Jake Johnson. If it is Jake Johnson, he's really... putting on a different voice. But no, it's just Chris Pine. And he's basically the most competent Spider-Man ever. Like, he's a grad student, he saves the city 100 times. What's going on in your background?
Nothing.
Because I can hear I can hear like a rustling around.
Oh, you know what that is? That's probably my cat trying to claw his way into the closet that I am recording in right now.
Mr. Whiskers, what are you doing?
Yeah, they're both like, why are you in the closet?
Why are you in the closet? Fucking hell, you don't have to go in the closet. Do I have to sing you an R. Kelly song?
L.A.
And Jillian was just standing here, and Jillian was out in the closet.
LA is a very loud place. My bedroom has cars honking all the time. And then, like, in the main living room, there's, cat noises and just you hear neighbors and stuff. So I was like, I'm going to go in the closet and be a professional.
Sure, why not? I'm just imagining your cats are like Michael Myers trying to get into you. Oh my god.
Yep.
Okay, well now if we hear the rustling capers, that's what it is. So yeah, he's in a successful relationship with Mary Jane, they're married, and like the whole city loves him, which is rare for Spider-Man, like he's actually doing pretty well. And meanwhile, we've got Miles Morales, an average teenager who's going to a bit more of a fancy school due to getting a scholarship. His dad is a police officer, Jefferson Davis, his mum's a nurse, and he doesn't quite fit into this new school. I can relate. Childhood. Anyway. And instantly, this character is just so fucking likable. Because they have him singing along to, I think it's a Post Malone song. I don't know. Is it a Post Malone song?
I have no idea.
I don't know who Post Malone even is. I've heard the name. I was like, is that some sort of like special delivery service the post office is offering? I don't know. You could go first class, or you could go Post Malone.
Yeah, I mean, currently I'm working at Spotify, and I know absolute shit about music, so I could not tell you who he was singing to save my life.
Oh dear. But he's singing along to a song whilst he's doing his artwork. He's an artist, like a street artist. He's like sticks stickers up and everywhere, and it's like, I've never heard of this voice actor before. Shamik Moore. I don't know if that's how you say his name. I've never heard him before. Never seen anything he does. But he's just, I mean, a phrase you'll hear in this review is perfect casting.
Yeah,
because
definitely.
It is perfect casting. I always have a bit of a bug up my arse when it comes to adults playing kid characters. I much prefer it when kids play them. Especially in voice animation, because otherwise it just sounds weird. Can you imagine if they did the Peanuts movie, where it's just like adults doing just like, good grief. Like, it wouldn't work. It wouldn't fucking work. But it works here! And he sounds just like a kid, and he's... I just love it. I just love it. He's so goddamn likable, and he's quirky, and he's quippy, and he's got an interesting relationship with his dad. There's clearly a lot of love there. But, his dad's a very uptight police officer. Just like, no, don't break the law. Mirror, Spider-Man, a menace. Mirror, don't stick stickers up or I'll make you tear him down. And then he drops him off at school. And we saw this all in the trailer, but it's still funny when you see it in the cinema. It is just like, you gotta say I love you. Dad, I'm not gonna do it. Say I love you over this loudhailer. I'm not gonna do it. Dad, I love you. That's a copy. And everyone starts laughing at him. And I can't help but thinking like, okay, yeah, funny, awkward, embarrassing. But like, he was basically forcing him. Like, I wouldn't laugh at that kid. It was like, man, I feel you.
Yeah, I know, right? I would just be like, oh man, it's okay. My parents do embarrassing things too, but,
My parents, when they want my attention, scream, you there. Get over here.
Yeah, or for me, they'll scream, a different name of a sibling, and then I won't know that they're talking to me.
Keith! Keith, get over here! Keith, I'm talking to you! What? I said your name! No, you said Keith! That's not even my name! Come on!
Yeah, exactly.
Apologies to anyone with a sibling named Keith who that has happened to. And, so he's going to this new school, and he meets this other slight weird new person called Gwanda. It's obviously Gwen Stacy. It's so fucking obviously Gwen Stacy. We all know it's Gwen Stacy. This is in all the trailers.
I was actually so confused in the beginning. Like, for a good 5 seconds, I was like, wait a minute, that's Gwen Stacy, but why is she saying her name is Wanda?
Why? I mean, okay. We find out later in the movie that it was from another dimension, and she got transported, not only through space, another dimension, but also through time. So she ended up a week before everyone else for some reason. Wibbly wobbly timey wimey. And, but, she doesn't, I mean, as far as we're aware, we don't know that there's another Gwen Stacy in this world.
Exactly.
And even if there was another Gwen Stacy, it's entirely possible that two people could have the same name, but then again, they would look similar, I guess. It's just we don't have enough information.
Yeah, originally I was thinking oh, maybe she's the Gwen Stacy of this universe, and then the real Gwen Stacy that we see later on in the trailers is Spider-Gwen is going to come in. But then she was saying her name was Wanda, and then she lost me.
Yeah, it was just I don't know. It feels like an unnecessary ooh, it's a bit of a meet cute sort of thing. It's we don't really need that, but there's a little bit of attraction there, and it's not like Mars doesn't have enough problems because he is weirdly trying to flunk out of the school because he feels so out of place there, but he's actually like a genius, so he knows all the stuff, and so his teacher sets him an essay like, hey, you got to do a personal essay and stuff, and rather than doing that, he, bums off it to go and spend time with his uncle Aaron, voiced by Mahershala Ali. Is that how you say his name?
I have no idea.
I want to say his name because he's such a good actor and he's been in so many great things. Not just another Marvel project, Luke Cage, obviously, but Moonlight and all sorts of other things. But I don't know. I'm not great with names. I don't know if that's becoming clear capers.
I mean, you're better than me. When I worked at a Disneyland resort.
What?
Yes, I did, and I didn't.
Betrayal.
Yes, I know. Sorry. But everybody wears a name tag around there, and I didn't know like half of my coworkers' names, even though they wore name tags every day.
Oh, what a lovely workplace anecdote. I'm sorry, you fucking worked at the epicenter of all there's evil in the world?
Yeah, and Disney World, so, double trouble.
So there's two theme parks. There's the land and the world.
Yeah, there's two.
Ugh. Well, but you don't work there anymore. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
I can only assume you wised up.
I mean, I still miss it to a degree. It's kind of
and
nice.
Just when I was starting to like you, Jillian.
Yeah, I know. Sorry. This is my dark side.
Damn right, it's your dark side. Anyway, and so he goes to seek advice about girls from his uncle Aaron, and that's where we get introduced to the brilliant concept of the shoulder touch. You just put your hand on the shoulder and say, "Hey."
Yes.
Of course. That's guaranteed to make the knickers fly off of any woman.
I mean, as a woman, I can attest to that statement.
Oh God! But it's like it could be so easily so creepy and weird, but it's a testament to the writing, how they present it, and the voice acting that it's all just it's funny and it's cute, and he goes down to the subway, well, like a disused subway thing with his uncle to do some graffiti art that's supposed to promote something, but I don't quite know what. And if they weren't promoting something, it's just like graffiti, why would they put it down here when no one would be able to see it? I don't get it, but maybe it's just like they're trying to hide out because, his uncle and his dad don't really get on. I don't know. But
I took it as the graffiti is actually part of the essay that he's going to write, because he's writing an essay about Great Expectations, and then he later writes Great Expectations, but then he puts his shadow over it. And then at the end of the film, he took that shadow that he had with the graffiti art, and he took it away when he handed in his essay. So I think it has to do with his artistic interpretation of who he is as a person, and actually working on that essay.
Symbolism!
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's more to it, but I would have to watch the movie a couple more times before I actually fully got it.
Well, you say that. I've seen this movie. You say that. I've seen this movie twice now, which is rare for me. I usually only have to see a film once. But I want to see it twice. A, because I really enjoyed it. B, because I wanted to have a bit more to say about it for this. And also because the first time I saw it, I didn't get a chance to see the end credits scene. We'll talk more about that later. Yeah. We'll talk about that later. But meanwhile, while they're down there, Miles is bitten by a genetically modified spider, which we're led to assume is from another dimension.
Yes.
Because it goes a little bit wibbly, that's a word I really like to use, wibbly, when due to dimensional instability, and we see happen to many other people who have come from another dimension, and so what I like about the scene is they could so easily have just done him being bitten, done, but they really build it up. They see him crawling all over him. He doesn't notice it, and then it bites him, and we see the classic sort of oh God, it bit me. Oh God, spider power is activating, and then it just goes flick off. It's dead.
That was such a great tension scene. They built up the tension in that whole scene so well with that one little spider, and then the comedic timing of just flicking off the spider at the end is just, I loved that scene.
It's a really good scene, and everything seems to be pretty normal. He doesn't get, like, the night sweats or anything like Tobey Maguire did. He just, like, wakes up one morning and is just like, my pants are shrunk. I think I'm going through puberty!
Yeah.
And clearly someone needs to tell him that the only way you go through puberty is through a magical vortex. Just ask Ron Weasley. Oh, I think I go through puberty! I miss those. But anyway, so and another really great tension-building scene is, like, the scene where he's going through the halls of the school with, like, his too tight pants and just, like, being hyper-aware of everything.
Yes.
And then he keeps sweating so much, and he meets up with Gwanda, quotation marks, and he tries to do the shoulder touch to her, and accidentally gets his sticky fingers, literal sticking two fingers, in her hair, just to get it shaved off. Not a great impression, Miles.
Tefinitely not. I also love how as soon as he gets bitten by the spider, that's when, like, for his character, that's when the text starts to show up.
But, like, why are my thoughts being so loud?
Yeah, exactly.
Because he has now been endowed with protagonist boxes.
Yes.
Protagonist. God, I should be able to talk considering my job as a podcaster, but anyway. And so things are going really, really not well for him. He gets into all kind of wacky escapades. And considering the fact that we've done this shit before, like, a couple of times before, we're like, oh no, I'm accidentally sticking to stuff and all sorts of things. The thing is, we've done that, like, twice before. And glad they managed to up the ante in terms of him, the wacky scenarios and the reactions, because that's the great thing about the animation. You could do really big, over-the-top, wacky comedic animations, and it doesn't seem weird. If they did that, even in the Raimi movies, it would seem very strange.
Yeah. And I think also the strength of the character and how we're seeing this through, like, a completely different character, it still feels new and fresh. So it's like the animation, and we have, this whole new person going through it. I think that's what really helped this movie in general, like, just feel like a Spider-Man movie, but also feel completely different from any other Spider-Man movie we've seen.
Because every Spider-Man movie, like every superhero movie, is divided between almost every superhero movie is divided between the secret identity, the alter ego, and the superhero alter ego. So every Spider-Man movie has been so far a Spider-Man / Peter Parker movie, as well they should be. But this isn't that kind of movie. It's a Spider-Man / Miles Morales movie. And Spider-Man is a similar character in terms of the power set, or even then, not so much of this one. But the Miles Morales story is fundamentally different. Few similarities, but he's on a completely different arc, so we can enjoy it afresh.
Yeah, and the thing is, too, is, like, because you also have Peter Parker coming into this story 2 different times, you still get his story to a degree, but you get, like, just enough of it where it's like, okay, yeah, I remember this, but it's also separate enough.
Yeah, and speaking of Peter Parker, Miles Morales sees him when he stumbles in through the subway place to a secret underground vortex manipulator accelerator particle accelerator thing that the main bad guy of the movie, Wilson Fisk, voiced by Liev Schreiber, I guess just decided, you know what, I tried Marvel once, it didn't work out, let's go for round 2. Turned out pretty well for him. Yeah, the Kingpin, and he's starting this accelerator thing, all the while Spider-Man and the Green Goblin, which this one is like a giant dragon version of the Green Goblin, are fighting, and this is the Chris Pine version, and he and Miles meet up, and it's just like, oh my god, you're like me. Okay, kid, here's what I want you to do. I want you to stay down, get out of sight. I'm going to deal with this, and I'm going to come find you. We're going to have a nice, good talk. Okay? And it's just like, oh, they're going to have so many adventures together. Epic foreshadowing.
Yes.
And so, basically, particle accelerator goes boom, and he fights off the Green Goblin and this other person, the Prowler. Oh, gee, I wonder who that could be.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's Flash Thompson. And basically, it's the accelerator goes boom. Chris Pine, Spider-Man, gets trapped in a bunch of rubble. He just says, okay, so here, you see this key? This is the magical MacGuffin that's going to fix everything. Hold on to it. Make sure this whole thing doesn't go horribly wrong. I'm going to find you later. Go out. It's okay. Don't worry about me. And don't tell anyone who you are, because Wilson Fisk has, like, his fingers in everyone's pocket, so, you know, your family will be in danger. Okay, go scoot now. And he has a little talk with Wilson Fisk, like, hey, Wilson, how's it going? Please don't bludgeon me to death. Oh, no! And so Chris Pine Spider-Man is dead now. He's fucking dead. Oh god. The feels.
I know, that was such an emotional moment for me, and I think the trailers hit it really well that was actually going to happen, because, like, I'm a little bit familiar with the comics, so I know that Peter Parker dies before Miles Morales can become Spider-Man, but seeing the trailers, I actually didn't think that was going to happen. And then it wasn't until, like, he pulled off the mask and you see that he has a different hair color that I was like, oh, wait a minute.
He's blonde! He's a blonde. I thought they were going to call him, like, Ben Reilly, but it turns out now he is Peter Parker. Oh, God, clones everywhere! Anyway, and don't ask. Don't fucking ask. And so Mars is really, really upset, as is everyone, because it turns out, Spider-Man identity gets broadcast on the news. Everyone, including the fact that he is his entire life and who his family is. And I can't help but wonder, isn't that going to put his wife, Mary Jane, and his Aunt May in severe jeopardy? Like, aren't all the villains like, well, we got rid of Spider-Man, no one to protect his family now, I'm going to kill him for quirks?
Yeah, I mean, those villains sure were kind of nice, now that I think about it.
You know what? Yeah, sure, I might be a megalomaniacal nutjob who's had a personal grudge against their nephew/husband, but you know what? They've had a tough time of it lately. I'm going to give them a break.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's actually really, really sad, despite the fact we know we spent as little time with this Spider-Man as possible. We really feel bad for him because he's goddamn Spider-Man, and you can see the impact he has on everyone. Even Jefferson Davis, Mars's dad, is like, oh god, because even though he hates Spider-Man, he doesn't really like him very much. He's actually like, oh god, that's not good, and everyone, all of New York is just like really sad. And then we get one of the most poignant Stan Lee cameos ever.
I know. I honestly, like, I kind of lost it a little at that cameo.
It's like he's like a costume, like superhero costume salesman. It's just like, I'm really gonna miss him. We were friends, you know. And it's like, and he hands Miles like basically a toy Spider-Man costume that we all had growing up. I know I did. And it's like, and Miles is like, I'm not sure this is gonna fit me. And he says, it always fits in the end, or something to that effect. It's like a really sweet moment, and then you see the sign behind him saying no returns, no refunds. It's just like, oh damn it, it's still funny as well. And it would be poignant and funny even if it weren't for the tragic passing of Stan Lee. And but honestly, if this is the last cameo we ever get out of him, I'll be happy, because we didn't get the fucking Venom one. So we got in a good Spider-Man movie. And maybe we might see him, hopefully, in the next Avengers movie. I certainly hope so. But if not, I think this will be a good one for Stan to go out on.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I actually heard that it's confirmed that the next Avengers movie is his last cameo. And now seeing this cameo with him, I'm actually like, oh man, I hope that cameo is really good, because this one was just the perfect send-off.
Yeah, it was. Oh man, it was really good. And so Mars basically says, okay, you know what? He said he was going to teach me, but he's gone now. I have to be Spider-Man now. And so he goes up to the top of a really tall building, ready to leap off. It's his moment. And he realizes, we're kind of high up here. Maybe I'll go for a smaller building. And this really sets up the central arc of Miles' character in this movie. Is him trying to overcome his insecurities and his fears about being Spider-Man.
Yes, and having to take the leap of faith.
Take that leap of faith. And he goes to Peter Parker's gravestone, and it's like, hey, I really don't know what I'm doing here. And there's a guy behind him, and I guess they call it Venom striking. He basically sort of like bioelectrocutes him. That's a new power that he has. Except they only call it that once in the movie, and they don't give any context for that. Just like says, hey, shock powers or something. But anyway, that's what he does, and he turns out, oh my god, it's Peter Parker, but he's older and more brown-haired and fatter. Ooh, what's going on here? And that's when we get the scene with, like, the slapstick scene with him flying through the city with him. And basically, when he wakes up, they talk, have a little bit of talk. It's like, okay, let's recap this. And then it starts this running thing of recapping the various Spider People's backstory and this montage thing, which is a great way of conveniently getting across all the information. It's really fun. It's actually, I think it's kind of iconic, actually, the way they just have a standardized set of going away about it. So basically it said, for the last 22 years, instead of the last 10 years or something, I think it was, for the Chris Pine Spider-Man, because this is the Jake Johnson Spider-Man, I thought I was the only amazing Spider-Man. I fought crime, saved the city bunch, fell in love, hurt my back. My marriage started getting a little bit testy, really hurt my back a lot more. Made some dodgy money decisions, got divorced. She wanted kids, I didn't. I'm just like, holy shit, they're really going for this, aren't they? I buried Aunt May. Holy shit, they are really going for this. This is the worst Spider-Man ever. And then I got fat. I started crying alone in the shower, and I started watching documentaries about seahorses. I was just like, oh my god, this is so sad. Not like a Stan Lee sad. This is sad as in like, dude, get your life together sad.
Yeah, exactly.
And then he gets transported to this dimension. And so we go on from having the most competent Spider-Man ever to the worst possible Spider-Man ever. This is, oh no, this is bad. And Jake Johnson, I have my doubts about Jake Johnson. I think he's a very good actor. I think he's great comedically. I wasn't sure about him in this role, like as Peter Parker. Really? But there's that phrase again, perfect casting.
Yeah, and I think the thing that they really nail about both Peter Parkers that I feel like some incarnations of that the films haven't really had is getting that nerdy but also super sarcastic, but in like a fun way sarcastic. You know what I mean?
Not like Amazing Spider-Man Mark Webb, whatever it was. Like not the douche sarcastic.
Exactly. It's like the funny sarcastic, but then you also have the fact that he is really smart, like in the Tobey Maguire versions. So I feel like this is like the Peter Parker that a lot of fans have been waiting to see, and you get to see it twice, you know, because you get two Peter Parkers.
Yeah, but this is again, it's a reimagining again as a slightly just much more schlubby, pathetic side of Peter Parker, but also like he's a Peter Parker though that does have a lot of experience. He has been Spider-Man for 22 years. He has saved the city a lot, and he's a shorthand for all the things that he does. He's just like, he looks at the chip that got broken, actually, the shutdown chip for the particle accelerator thing, and he's just like, give me the goober. The what? No, it's a shutdown chip. It's always called a shutdown chip or a bypass chip or whatever, so I just call it a goober. Gimme. And it's just like, well, of course he would have a shorthand for that because he's done this so many times. He's going to have a shorthand for it. This is old hat to him. And Mars is like, okay, dude, you've got to be the one that trains me. And he's like, no, please, no, please, no, please, no, please, no, please, no. All right, fine. Yay! I summarized it for you. I just saved you like 5 minutes. And it's like, it's the great thing about this Peter Parker, the Jake Johnson Peter Parker, is like, he's always towing the line between like, is he lazy or is he just using shortcuts? Because like, he says, should we swing over to the Hudson Valley where apparently all the information we need to get is because this version of the chip is broken? No, let's just take the bus because we're not swinging. And it's like, oh, he must be lazy. And then he says later, immediately after, just like, you know, trust me, your feet will thank you for it. You need to rest up. It's like, oh, but is he being lazy or is this all part of his plan? And it's I
took it as like shortcuts. Like he's just done it so long. He knows like where not to waste time. And I actually thought that we're not gonna like swing across the Hudson Valley as kind of funny because I mean, I don't know, maybe it's because like I actually have lived in that area, so it's pretty far. Like swinging over there, all the way over there, is kind of pointless. You're better off taking mass transportation.
Yeah, and I just thought that it makes perfect sense, and it really, because it was so easy for them to make this Peter Parker just complete and utter waste, pathetic. He's terrible at everything, but he's not terrible at everything. He's just going through a bad time. He is still Spider-Man, undoubtedly, clearly Spider-Man. He's just, you know, at worst a bit rusty. At worst, because he's still got like he comes up with a plan for infiltrating Alchemex, because there's Alchemax, whatever it's called, and there's the place where they need to get all the information from. And it's like, I know exactly what I'm gonna do. I've got to do this plan, and that's basically what they do, and it kind of works. It's just that Miles is the one that mucks it up because he's so inexperienced, and he brings a cape, Miles.
Yeah, I know. Capes, no capes.
No capes. Anyway,
no capes.
And so they both infiltrate. First, it's just gonna be Peter, but then Kingpin shows up, so Miles joins him. And that's where we find out that Miles also has another super ability. He can turn invisible, just not exactly at will. It's like a fight or flight thing. And that's where we meet this doctor, first name Olivia, who works the thing. So Miles is invisible, trying to get the computer and all the things. Yeah. Meanwhile, Peter is distracting this doctor. And then it turns out this Dr. Olivia, last name, Octavius. And it's just, I like this. Because, again, the reimagining thing, we never saw this coming. I never saw this coming.
Yeah, no, I didn't either.
And B, there's a joke earlier where Peter's going through his mind what he's going to do. He's like sneaking up to the head scientist. In his mind, it's a man. Miles says, actually, the head scientist is Olivia person. And it's like, Spider-Man, okay, re-examining my personal biases then. And it's a fun joke. But then, here's the thing, I never really expected, even though there had been female Dr. Octopi before, this Olivia person to be the new Dr. Octopus for this movie. And it's like, oh, it's clever in two ways.
Yeah, I definitely think this movie, again, plays with your expectations really well by going in knowing that you have probably seen the previous incarnations of Spider-Man and just using that to like completely throw you like 180s left and right.
Every time something feels familiar, they come at you from the left side with something completely unfamiliar that makes perfect sense. It's not the fact that the different changes, it's that the different changes work. Because they could have done anything, and they could have thrown anything at the wall and see what sticks, you know, the DC method, but they didn't do that. They actually put some thought into it, clearly. And so they escape the lab with basically the entire computer because they couldn't find the exact right information. And I love all the scientists in the cafeteria suddenly just like take out the briefcases and they transform them into laser weapons all of a sudden, and they scream it like, "He took a bagel!" Like, it's so funny. God, it's so funny.
It is. There's definitely a lot of funny moments in this film, and I love how Miles has, like, the monitor and the main computer, and Peter's like, we don't need the monitor.
Oh, God, and the thing about the humor is, the great thing is, it's multiple different kinds of humor. Like we said, there's, like, background humor, there's humor, like, they have, like, these stylized, like, SFX, sort of like the Batman thing, but, like when something knocks or something, like if a small metallic thing would knock off a small other metallic thing, a little tink noise would happen, like tink, and you'd actually see that little tink, little tiny. But if something big happened, like a boom, then a big boom would shout out. But like the best example of this, I think, not in terms of humor as well, but also just in terms of pure stylism. The first time Miles's spider sense activates. He's like, we first hears about sees the particle accelerator, he's standing in front of like this big bank of computers that have some windows next to them, and in the windows, suddenly, just silently, the words, "Look out," giant are spelled, and his eyes sort of widen, and then boom, explosion, and God, this works on so many levels!
Yeah, it's really great, and I love, as we were saying, like, I love the small details as well in the humor. Like, even when there's that whole scene when Peter is, like, saying, like, "No, I'm not going to help you," and Miles is, like, following him and, like, climbing up the wall. You just see, like, on the left, you just see, like, this random guy in his apartment, like, looking at them climbing the wall and looking like, what the fuck is going on over there?
What the hell's in this coffee? Jeez.
Yeah.
It's one of the things where I think you do need to see the movie twice. You know what it reminds me of? Yeah. It reminds me of Hot Fuzz and those movies. We have to see it twice to get all the jokes. Man, we have to see it twice to see all the background stuff. It's worth seeing this movie twice, and so many movies aren't. Like, I also saw Bumblebee. I don't think we're going to talk about that on podcast extensively, but I saw Bumblebee, I enjoyed it, I really did. I'm not going to see it again because I have no reason to see it again. Everything I need to see was in the first viewing. Not so with this one. I might even consider it worth watching a third time. Jeez.
Yeah, this one I am definitely buying when it is released because there's just so much going on stylistically, humor-wise, and like we said, like as we mentioned before, like things in the background. Like you definitely have to see this movie more than once.
And what I love also about it is Peter then starts actually teaching Miles sort of on the go whilst they're trying to escape web swinging. It'd been so easy for them to just do a scene where like, okay, kid, now I'm going to teach you about web swinging. Swing on, swip off. But no, it's like thwip and release, thwip and release. And you can see it's working. They're getting the hang of it. And then they bump into someone else. Uh-oh, it's Spider-Gwen. Spider-Gwen, who is not for some reason called Spider-Ghost, even though that's a better name than fucking Spider-Woman. There's like 5 of them. Look out! Here comes the Spider-Gwen.
Yeah, I was confused about that too, calling her Spider-Woman. I was like, wait, that's her name? I thought it was something else, but whatever.
So there's the first Spider-Woman, the second Spider-Woman, the third Spider-Woman, like I think there's a 4th one, I don't know, and then there's Spider-Girl. It's like, I know his name's Spider-Man, but like we've got plenty of other, like we don't need to call them Spider-Woman. Because like what if we ever want to do an animated Spider-Woman? You know?
Yep.
What if we want to see Jessica Drew? Then the name's already taken. Ghost Spider or Spider Ghost, whatever she was called, was such a much better name.
Yeah, I don't remember what she's actually called in the comics because I just always call her Spider-Gwen.
Well, the name of the comics that she's in is Spider-Gwen initially. And in universe, she's called Spider-Woman, but then later on she adopts the name Spider-Ghost, which is becoming a bit more popular. She was in like a couple of Marvel Rising animated shorts, and she's called basically Ghost Spider in that, which I think much makes better considering the overall, the generally white and the hood sort of color scheme that she's got on. But I just think it makes more sense. But in this one, she's called Spider-Woman. We're going to call her Spider-Gwen because fuck it, we're not going to change. And this is Gwen Stacy. It's not Gwen, it's Gwen Stacy. And she does the whole backstory thing. And we see that hers is a bit more, well, not necessarily tragic. They're all tragic. But hers is a bit more lonely. Because she, basically, spoilers if you haven't read the comics. But they get that over pretty quickly due to the nature of, because it ties in with the whole Spider-Verse thing. And it's a nightmare. Basically, she got the spider powers instead of Peter Parker. Peter Parker wanted to be like her and be like special and have powers. So he accidentally turned himself into the lizard. And so she had to fight him and he accidentally dies. But it's not really her fault, but everyone blames her for it. And so now she's like, I don't do the friends thing anymore. It's and what I like about that is that she talks about how her friend Peter died. But we only really see it in the background. We see that giant lizard thing in shadows. She kicks this giant lizard thing. It turns into like a guy. And we think, oh, that's Kurt Connors. Wait, no. Actually, it's Peter Parker.
Yeah, I did like how I guess they did it more like subtle than other moments in the film. And I kind of like that.
Because that would have been a whole new character arc and a whole new thing to bring to. And
yeah, exactly.
And like we've got enough going on here, and maybe one day we'll get a spin-off with Spider-Gwen. Fingers crossed. But for the moment, they're just talking about her and her backstory. And then I got transported to New York, but it wasn't like my New York. And then Mars is like, "I like your haircut," and she says the best line in the movie: "You don't get to like my haircut."
Yeah, definitely.
It's funny, and so they speed off. And it's like, okay, what are we going to do now? They go to the house of May Parker. And it's a really interesting dynamic between her and Jake Johnson Spider-Man. Because in his universe, Aunt May is dead. And in her universe, her nephew is dead. It's like, oh, it's really sweet. And I wish they could have gone into it a bit more. But that might have been wasting time a little bit. I don't know. But it's still, it's for what it is, it's still really, really sweet. And Lily Tomlin does a great job as playing like a slightly more tougher, slightly more world-weary, slightly more sarcastic Aunt May than we've seen previously. I really like it. And again, it's so sweet. And then they take her to the Spider Shed. Because it's literally Spider. Where did this universe's Peter Parker get the money to enact this sort of like Spider
That's
cave?
What I was wondering too. I'm like, wow, this guy is like, how did he get this stuff to happen?
He's a grad student, for fuck's sake. I mean, he must have made a lot of movie out of off that Christmas album.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, he's still probably paying off student debts over here.
And he's got so many things. He's got multiple different costumes, like the stealth suit and like a Doctor Strange version. The suit from the Spider-Man PS4 game. I'd like to see that. Like spider armors. The Secret Wars suit. Lots of spider suits that I remember. But he's also got like stuff like a spider bike and the Spider-Mobile. May it burn in hell!
Burn. Just
burn,
burn
you fucking doom buggy of a fucking Spider-Mobile. God. Why? Why did he think he needed a Spider-Mobile? Why? No one, not even he liked it. I'm getting ahead of myself. And so it shows them this whole setup, and it's like, did you really think you'd be the first one that comes here? And then we see Noir Spider-Man, voiced by only Nicolas motherfucking Cage.
That was probably one of the best like voice casting choices. I just feel like it was just so perfect.
His voice matches perfectly, and you can tell he's not trying to do like an exaggerated Nick Cage. Like, he based his performance on Humphrey Bogart, and it kind of works.
Yeah, he definitely, that was one of my favorite, like, here's like, oh, it's Nicolas Cage, like random like voice.
He's in black and white. Nicolas Cage is a black and white Spider-Man private detective who likes drinking Ed creams, whatever the fuck they are, and punching Nazis. He literally says one of his hobbies is punching Nazis and burning matches just to see if he can feel something, anything. This is amazing!
Yes, I love how he can't see in color, and he doesn't know what the Rubik's Cube is or why it's cool.
Oh my god, it's perfect. It's perfect. And then we get Penny Parker, who's like an anime version of Spider-Man. Again, from the comics, she was featuring the Spider-Verse thing, which is not related to the Spider manga, like the Spider-Man manga, the manga Spider-Man character. That's entirely different. There's been so many different versions of Spider-Man, even before the fucking Spider-Verse crossover thing. There was tons of them, and I'm just sad we didn't get to see Spider UK. Anyway,
maybe another movie. You know?
Probably we get a ton more. And she has like a psychic link to a spider that's in like this suit that her dad made, this giant robot suit that she also goes into, like fucking Diva from Overwatch. Cool. This is cool. This is fucking cool. And then we get, I mean, there was no one else. There was no one else they were going to bring in. Obviously, they're going to bring him in because it's the most ridiculous thing. So obviously they have to get it. Spider-Ham, voiced by John Mulaney.
Yes.
What even is this? It makes perfect sense. And it's John Mulaney. Like, I do not think John Mulaney is a good actor at all. I saw his sitcom. I thought it was Drek. I love his stand-up. I think he's a very funny actor, very funny writer. But it works here. It works in live action just because, like, it does.
I feel like that was again.
I'm freaking out a little bit here. I'm freaking out.
Yeah, that was great casting choice as well. I actually, there's actually a video on YouTube where John Mulaney, like, he was on some talk show and he's like doing, these are the outtakes from this movie.
He was on the Jimmy Fallon show and he was talking about like how when they let him, because he's a comedian, they let him go off and do his own thing and have fun with it, and he just started swearing.
Yes, I want to see outtakes where they animate Spider-Ham with that audio.
Oh god. I'm just not used to things being this good. Usually it's like they're great, but there's like one or two nitpicks here and there and I don't really like it. Like, still great, but you know, or it's just like utter shit. Like, those are the two things I have. Either I have something that's great, but you know, I can't enjoy completely, or something that's terrible. And here we have something that's just completely and utterly enjoyable from start to finish. I don't know how to handle it.
Yeah, and it's like with this movie, there's so many things in here that, like, I guess if you were to like tell it to someone, that you would think wouldn't work, and yet it just does so well. Like the whole, well, we're gonna make a Spider-Man movie and we're gonna put a whole bunch of spider people in it from the different universes. It's like that's never gonna work, and yet it works so well because they're so good at keeping everything focused and giving things just enough time that they need before moving on to the next thing.
Yeah, I feel spoiled. I feel like a Dickensian orphan that's just eating cake for the first time. It's like, it's too sweet. I don't know how to handle this. And then we get spend some time. We get the backstories of all these characters again, like showing very quickly the montage of all those things interspersed with each other. It's very cool, and we get them talking about, what the plan is in terms of getting the data and using it to shut off the particle accelerator. It turns out there's a twist. One person needs to stay behind to shut off the particle accelerator. Well, that's not too bad, right? Except all of them are suffering from, like, their atoms basically can't work in this dimension. So they're all, like, glitching out. And so if any of them stay here, eventually they'll die. So it's like, okay, we'll just make Miles turn off the particle accelerator after they've all gone back to their own dimensions, right? Except Miles is not that competent a spider person yet. He's still learning, and so they don't think he'll be able to handle it fairly enough. Although I kind of think they gang up on him a bit much.
Yeah, I think they did too. I was like surprised. I'm like, wow, they're just like really not holding any punches back. And they're all just, you got like 4 people, like spider people that have all this experience just punching this one kid. It's like,
I get that it's a tense scenario, guys, but like, he's been Spider-Man less than a week. Were you all this good? When you was first started out? I think not. I think it's pretty much the definition of being a spider person. Like, you don't start off well. Bad things happen. And so they kind of just hang out in Aunt May's house, and like Aunt May just puts a coaster under Spider-Ham's like cup of tea or whatever it is. It's like, fucking hilarious.
yeah.
But then they get and so basically Miles just like runs off basically and says, I'm not ready for this. I'm not good. And it's like this is like the all is lost moment. Actually, it's the first all is lost moment. There's several others, but and so basically he goes to his Uncle Aaron's apartment, just like, I really need my uncle right now. He's not there. But you know who is there? The Prowler. Who's the Prowler? His uncle. Bum, bum, bum.
And I usually pride myself on figuring out twists like pretty early on. And this one, I mean, I don't know. I guess because I was just so invested in all the characters and what was going on, I had no idea that this was going to be the twist until the Prowler like came into the apartment. And I was like, oh yeah, this makes sense now with all those other things that happened.
See, I knew it was going to happen because I was more familiar with the character. I'd heard that a version of the Prowler was Miles Morales' uncle or related to him somehow. But, and also I thought it was, I don't know, because like his uncle mysteriously goes out of town right when the Prowler shows up.
Yeah.
But they do play it very well though. And they have the like chase scene and stuff, and basically Miles runs back to Aunt May's house and says, guys, my uncle's the Prowler, things are going crazy. And it's like, well, you didn't leave them here, right? Crash. And in comes the Prowler, Tombstone, and Octavius, and a version of the Scorpion. He's like a giant scorpion guy. It's like, and big fight, but Miles just can't handle himself, so he takes the data with him, and Jake Johnson Spider-Man says just like, run, get out of here. And he does, but the Prowler catches up to him, and they reveal their identities to each other. It's like, oh shit, what am I gonna do? And the Kingpin's like, kill him. It's like, and the Prowler's like, nephew, can't really. Bang, dead.
Which, considering all of that armor that he's wearing, I'm surprised one bullet managed to kill him.
From like behind as well, I don't know. And the Kingpin doesn't like ask any questions. He doesn't ask like, why are you hesitating? I'm just gonna kill you. Just like, I feel like if they had a conversation, just like, Prowler, what are you doing? Fucking kill him. I can't. He's my nephew. Really? Okay, knock him out and leave him then. Just make sure you get the data, okay? I feel like that could have gone a different way because but it doesn't happen, and of course his uncle is dead. He takes his body away and leaves him in an alleyway, and where his dad discovers them. What a coinkydink. And again, now this is again the all is lost moment, really. And they meet up at Miles's dorm room, basically, and after avoiding his roommate.
His roommate, yeah.
And they basically Miles is just like, I can't handle this. This is crazy. This is too much. I just lost my uncle. It's really sad. And they're like, dude, we all lost someone. Like, I lost my uncle. I also lost my uncle. I lost my dad. Even Spider-Ham gets a little sad moment, just like, the first thing you learn about this job is that you can't save everyone. John Mulaney sells that one line of a hidden shame. Like, they could have easily said, like, I think Spider-Ham has just, like, a spider aunt or something, because in his universe, he's a spider, gets bitten by a radioactive pig. Makes perfect sense. But they didn't even include that, because that would be kind of silly. They just said, like, the first thing you learn being a spider person is that you can't save everyone. And he's got this tragic thing about him. And Miles is just like, okay, fine, well, I need to make sure you guys get home safe. And they're like, no, you can't, because you're clearly not ready. It's like, no, I am. It's just like, well, how will I know when I'm ready? You won't.
You won't.
It's a leap of faith. And Jake Johnson, Spider-Man, webs him up and, like, puts spiderweb over his mouth. Like, fucking dangerous. What if he needs to call for help or something? And what a coincidence. Again, another coincidence. His dad comes up on the other side of the dorm and basically says, like, I know you're in there. You don't want to talk to me? Fine. Your uncle's dead. Soz. Bye. It's just like, oh, God, they're just pouring on the sad. Oh, God.
Yeah, that moment was so good in terms of, like, the acting and just, like, so much emotion. I mean, I was crying. I'm not afraid to say that.
No, it's worth crying over, I think, because it's not like, it's not exploitative or shoved down your throat. The emotions are earned and organic, and it's really good. But Miles gets like, okay, I need to believe in myself, and then he goes to May's home, and where she's just like waiting like a boss with a tea, like, took you long enough. Oh, Lily Tomlin, you sassy queen. And so he gets like a Spider-Man costume, paints over it to be like more like the Miles Morales costume from the comics, and he basically does this leap of faith. He leaps off the tallest building and like gets the hang of it, and it's like, okay, I know what I'm gonna do now. And they go back to the particle accelerator to basically fix this whole thing, and it's revealed by now that the reason why Kingpin is doing this, why he's messing with alternate realities. His wife and child, Vanessa and Richard, saw him beat up Spider-Man one time, and they got horrified, ran away from him, and got hit by a car. So he's trying to bring them back from an alternate dimension. And it's like, oh God, they're even making the Kingpin sympathetic. Dear God.
I know, it was really, I felt like that was such a smart move, and then it also explains like why he's so ruthless throughout the whole film. I mean, and even in the beginning, like when the first Peter Parker is like tells him like, I know what you're trying to do, and it's not gonna work, and then he just, yeah, I mean, it's sad. It's just sad.
It's sad, and it's sad when Peter Parker meets up with this dimension's version of Mary Jane, who he split up from, and it's also kind of a little funny, and it's just like, I wish I could give you bread, because they're dressed up like waiters. It's funny. And so they all meet up, and then they have this, it's basically a big epic royal showdown between all the villains and all the heroes. Spider-Man Noir against all of them, Spider-Ham, Spider-Gwen, all of them. And it's so much fun to see them all fight, and it looks really cool seeing like Spider-Gwen flip from place to place, seeing, you know, Noir Spider-Man do like his bare knuckle boxing thing, Spider-Ham getting out his cartoon mallet. It's like,
I love the colors that they use, like how it's just like changing like into all these different color schemes like throughout the battle. It's just so amazing to look at visually.
Because like buildings erupt and everything gets changed, and like the laws of space and time start to break down, and oh God, it just looks, it's so visually cool, and people are jumping off like buildings and subway trains and buses and all sorts of random shit pouring out from this nexus of alternate realities. And by the way, the nexus of alternate realities looks like a giant spider's web. It looks like sort of a place where, like, I don't know, Madame Web would live or something. It looks so cool. And basically they get it started, and they all go through one by one, each saying a teary goodbye. Spider-Man Noir brings along the Rubik's Cube, just saying, I don't understand this, but I'll bring it back with me. And it's oh, God. Oh, yeah. And and they go back for one by one, but then things start to go wrong when the Kingpin shows up, and Jay Johnson Spider-Man is just like, I'm going to fix this. And Miles Morales is saying, like, no. And he calls back to a previous bit in the movie where he first escapes from him, like saying, don't watch the mouth, watch the hands. And then he drops him basically into the alternate reality thing, and they part on good terms. And then it's a big showdown between Kingpin, who killed his uncle, and Spider-Man now, because now Miles is Spider-Man. He is. Before he was just, like, he had the suit, he had the powers, now he is Spider-Man. Truly. And it's an epic showdown. It fails to bring back Vanessa and Richard, and it's another sad moment for the Kingpin. And oh God, you can see it's a brilliant example of how tragedy can define you. Spider-Man Miles is using his tragedy of his uncle to make himself a better person. Kingpin is using his tragedy to make himself an even worse person by wrecking so many lives, in fact all of reality really. It's so good on a thematic level. He finishes him off with what his uncle taught him, the shoulder touch. Hey, zap. And everything, the day is saved. He makes up with his dad, both as Spider-Man and as himself, leaves the Kingpin behind for the criminals, gets back to school, and everything just gets tied up in a nice little bow. He creates a nice mural as a dedication to his dad, or his uncle rather. We see all the other different spider people in their own universe, you know, getting on better. Penny Parker, her spider robot armor thing got destroyed, so she's like making a new one, and it's all good. And like Noah Spider-Man is showing off the Rubik's Cube, and Gwen is learning
completed. The Rubik's Cube is completed. It's important. I don't know how he managed to do that if he can't see color.
I think I think he can see those colors. He's just not familiar with the colors.
Okay.
I don't know, but either way, it's great. And it's such a satisfying ending. And then we see like a little dimensional portal open, and we hear Gwen's voice coming out, like, "Hey, got a sec?" And it's like, "Ooh, we're gonna have sequels."
Yes. I mean, I'm pretty sure that they've already greenlit a sequel for this.
They have the greenlit sequels, spin-offs. I think they're possibly doing like cartoon shorts with Spider-Ham. But the best sort of ending for me is the one with Jake Johnson Spider-Man, because throughout this whole thing, teaching Miles, at first it was like, no, I'm not going to do it, because like, this is why I didn't want kids, because that's why his marriage broke down. But then he starts bonding with Miles and learning, and he gets a real kick out of teaching him and spending time with him, and he grows up a little bit, and he, at the end, like before he jumps into the interdimensional necklace, he's like, wait, do I want kids? And the last time we see him is him standing in front of Mary Jane's door with flowers and stuff, like smiling, just like, oh, they're gonna get back together, it's gonna be okay, because he wants kids now. And they didn't need to give the mentor character an arc. They just could have had him teaching him and maybe him getting his life back together at the end. But no, they put the time and effort in to give this little plot thread the due attention it needed. And that's what makes this movie work. The attention to detail, whether it be in the foreground or the background. There is so much detail exactly where it needs to be on so many levels that makes this movie so fucking enjoyable.
Exactly, and that's kind of why, like, even though there were, like, could we have gotten more with, like, the Kingpin and conversation before he kills, like, the uncle and all that stuff, it's like, that stuff doesn't really bother me, because it's just, there's so much other stuff going on that works so well that everything else is just whatever. It's just, like, an extra bonus if they did it.
Yeah, and speaking of extra bonuses, we get an end credits scene after the brilliant credits, the very stylish and very lovely animated, and we get a great Stan Lee quote as a lovely fitting tribute to the man, and as well to Steve Ditko, without whom we would not have Spider-Man. Then we get a scene with, oh god, it's Miguel O'Hara, Spider-Man 2099, with his AI companion, who I like, because like, yes. And it's like, oh, he's got his own dimension hopping device. Oh, we're gonna see Oscar Isaac as Miguel O'Hara traveling through dimensions. The first one he goes to, the infinitely memeable Spider-Man 60s cartoon.
I was dying laughing. I feel like even if you don't know shit about Spider-Man, like everybody knows that meme, and it was just so funny.
This is like, why are you pointing at me? Don't point at me, you point at me. And Stan Lee apparently voices J. Jonah Jameson in that. We just get a line from him. It's like, which one of them pointed first? Spider-Man pointed first. Oh god, it's so funny because like they could have done a really serious, and at first it does seem very serious, end credit scene setting up these future movies, but they end on a fucking joke, and I love it.
Yeah, and that's when I feel like you know that you've seen a good movie, because it knows when to be serious, and it knows how to weave in the jokes, and it knows when to be funny. Like even at the end, there was one goodbye we didn't mention, which was Spider-Ham, and when he leaves, he just says like, "That's all, folks," and then I'm pretty sure it's Peter Parker is like, is he legally allowed to say that as he's like falling back into his dimension?
Oh god, there's so much. We could spend all day talking about every little Easter egg, every single line of dialogue that made us laugh, but we'd be here forever. We spend all day talking about the cast, like Shamik Moore, Jake Johnson, Haley Steinfeld, who more and more is a real rising star. She's doing so well with Edge of 17, and then Bumblebee, and now this. We don't even need to talk about Mahershala Ali. Brilliant. Brian Tyree Henry, who voiced Jefferson Davis as Mars's dad. Not an actor that I was very familiar with. I don't know anything he's done, really. But he does such a great job as his dad. You can tell that... Like, it was so easy to make the dad like the typical, like, I don't like Spider-Man, I'm no fun. But there's layers to him. The only character that's close to Mars that doesn't really get a lot of development is his mum. But maybe save it for the sequel, sadly. Well, I'd like to find more about Rhea Morales, but sadly no. And Kimiko Glenn as Penny Parker, she's great, I'm not that familiar with her. As I said, Oscar Isaacs, Miguel O'Hara, Nicolas Cage, Tom Mulaney, and so many others. Zoe Kravitz redeems herself in my eyes after the Crimes of Grindelwald as Jerry Jane Watson. Lake Bell is Vanessa Fisk. Catherine Hahn is the Dr. Octopus. Marvin Jones III, also known as Crondon, voices Tombstone. Post Malone apparently gets like I think it's the guy who says, "Is that a Banksy or something?"
Oh, okay, yeah. That was another funny line, you know.
And there's so many things, and it all works so much. And I mean, I don't know who to give credit for. Actually, I take that back. I do know who to give credit for. I need to give credit to fucking Lord and Miller. Like I think they're the driving horse behind this. I mean, the screenplay was by Phil Lord and this guy Rodney Rothman. Props to him. Story though was by Phil Lord. It's clear that this guy and Christopher Miller really fucking know what they're doing, because they've taken things that shouldn't work or maybe would be just fine. They've really done something with them. Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. Fuck it, like that's the first thing they did, and I love that movie. Fuck the Lego Movie. Do need we say more? Lego Batman. That's the thing, actually. They've taken like Batman hasn't had a good film in fucking years. They made the first great Batman movie in ages. Spider-Man, with Sony at least, haven't made a good movie in years. They took that. They just keep on resurrecting so many superhero things that haven't been doing well in certain scenarios, and just making them better by A, understanding the core nature of the character, and B, having fun with them.
Yeah, and maybe now they can finally get their well-deserved Oscar. Hopefully.
Well, it has been, I think it's been nominated and won a bunch of awards already, like a small area like New York, Detroit Film Critics Association Award Society, whatever, stuff like that. Uh, Golden Globes, it, we haven't seen, whether they've been nominated or not, a lot of stuff is pending, but it is looking pretty fucking well. I mean, it's doing pretty well at the box office so far. When was it released? Yeah, let me put it this way. It's only been released. It's not actually. It's been out 2 days in the United States. I was lucky to see a couple of early previews for it where I live in Edinburgh. So that's why getting such a jump on it. But it's like so 2 days. It's already made like a fair bit of its budget back, so it's definitely gonna get out there. But the biggest thing about it is the critical and the audience reaction to it. It is actually it received Best Animated Feature nomination at the recent Golden Globes and the Critics' Choice Awards. So it's getting recognized, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
People are realizing actually this is really fucking good, like surprisingly good. I think I wasn't alone in not expecting much out of it. I didn't automatically think it was going to be bad. I didn't automatically think it was going to be good. I didn't expect anything out of it, and fool me because it's fucking amazing.
Yeah, this is definitely like an amazing movie. Everybody that I've talked to that's seen it has fucking loved this movie, and it definitely deserves all the attention that it's getting.
Yeah, it really does, and I hope that we get more movies like this. I would love to see this just running concurrently, separately with the MCU, just like its own smart thing. And it doesn't, because that's the great thing about it. It doesn't focus on Peter Parker because we got the MCU for that. Focus on Miles Morales and Spider-Gwen and Noir and Spider-Ham and do all these things, and just because there's so much potential here.
Yeah, they need to stop. I think with the thing about Spider-Man is that I think a lot of people are ready to move on past Peter Parker, and it's time to get some of the newer characters in, and this is a great start.
I don't think we need to move on beyond Peter Parker because he's a timeless character, and he works very well in the MCU, but as you say, there's so many other characters for decades now. We've had alternate Spider-Man, I mean, fucking Spider-Man 2099 was one of the earlier ones, and he's been around for ages. He's still around because, he was originally written by Peter David, who can do no wrong.
Yeah, definitely.
I like Peter David, but I really like this. It's annoying. Again, it's annoying because it's really not much we can say about this movie without just gushing about how good it is, how much we like it, how much we love the writing, the characters, the plot, the themes, the animation, the voice acting, the drama, the comedy. It's all just so great. I think it's standing at a 97% on Rotten Tomatoes, around there. Yeah, and so it's clearly doing really fucking well.
Yeah, you need to bring me back when we get another like shitty movie.
Because it's much easier to review those things because like, we can really nitpick those things. Here we could nitpick things, but we'd just be repeating ourselves because it's really fucking, and it really shows what happens. DC, pay attention. Sony in particular, pay attention to this. When you reinvent things but really think about them. When you really, truly give something its due, just like, okay, we could do the same thing we've done before. We could follow the popular trends. Or we could do something different. Because this is different. It's reimagining. But it's not the same as the Lego movie either. It doesn't have the same kind of humor. It's not following like, okay, that movie was really successful. So basically, let's do the same thing as that. No, it's trying to focus on building its own sort of unique identity.
Yeah, and DC especially, take note. You can be funny and serious at the same time. It is not that hard.
In fairness, having seen Aquaman, I can confirm that is something of the case. Although we're like, how many movies are we in with DC? Like, and then now they finally recognize it. But anyway, and yeah, but it shows just how much creativity we can do, I think, with super movies in general. Because I hear a lot of stuff about, like, ugh, I'm sick of superhero movies. And it's like, okay, fine, if you don't like the genre, fair enough. But it's a broad umbrella term. It's like saying, I don't like drama movies or comedy movies. There's so many things you can do with them. There is so much creativity on offer here. There are so many different ways you can express so many different kinds of stories. And I think the Spider-Verse is going to be the nexus upon which we see many more of these stories emerge. And I, for one, can't fucking wait. And on that note, I think we are going to end the show. Thank you very much, Jillian, for joining us today.
Yay! Thank you for having me.
It's been a lot of fun. And if you enjoy the show, Capers, please tell your friends, shout it from the rooftops. And if you haven't already, go back and listen to some of our other super episodes. Did we do one of the Spider-Man Homecoming? I believe we probably talked about Sony at some point. Go and listen to that. And you can listen to the show on iTunes, Podbean, YouTube, Spotify, or at podcapers.com. We have a Patreon. Check out the rewards. Patreon.com/AP2HYC. If you want to get in touch with us, suggest show topics, or maybe come on the show yourself, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at AP2HYC, or email us at podcapers@AP2HYC.com. Thank you very much to Dan Harris for our logo, the lovely microphone with the red and blue 3D glasses. Those are mine. And thank you for listening. This has been Podcapers, the official podcast of a place to hang your cape. Cue the music!